Last year, a group of Texas activists participated in a July 4th protest at the Prairieland ICE Detention Facility in Alvarado, Texas. They were ultimately convicted of terrorism and other related charges. This week, 8 people from that group were sentenced to between 50 to 100 years in prison. The U.S. Justice Department released a press release and noted the sentences were the first since President Donald Trump declared Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. Today's sentencings show the FBI remains committed to identifying, locating, and dismantling Antifa and its funding networks across the country, said FBI Director Kash Patel. Acts of violence against our law enforcement partners will not be tolerated, and we will continue to work to protect communities across the country from domestic terrorism. A ninth person, Daniel Des Sanchez Estrada, the husband of one of the demonstrators, did not participate in the protest, but he was sentenced to 30 years in prison after he was convicted of moving boxes containing zines, short for magazines, and other materials containing progressive messaging after a prison phone call from his wife, Maricela Rueda. Now, she's been arrested and sentenced to 70 years for her role in the protest, which included rioting, providing material support to terrorists, conspiracy to use and carry an explosive, and use and carry of an explosive, the explosive being fireworks. Now, the extreme length and harsh nature of these prison sentences have triggered First Amendment groups and legal experts to sound the alarm. Sanchez Estrada's sentence in particular has been condemned by First Amendment advocates who say that it sends a chilling message about the kinds of ideological material people are allowed to possess. Here to share her experience about this unfolding situation is AJ Bell, Daniel's sister. AJ, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Natalie, for giving us the opportunity.
Absolutely. So I want to let everybody know how I first connected with all of you and your family. I had posted a piece about this because I found this concerning on many levels to my Instagram, and it caught some fire and people were responding to it. And your son had reached out to me and said, "Hey, that's my uncle that you're talking about in the video." And then that was how we got connected. So I just wanted to give a shout out to your son Jacob in case he decides to join us at any point during the interview today. But let's talk a little bit about Daniel. Can you talk to me about who is he as a person outside of this case?
Okay, so just a little bit of background, right? Like, he came to the United States when he was 14 years old. He is 39 years old. So most of his life he has been here. This is all he knows, right? Like, this is all he knows. He is an artist. He is a great tattoo artist, right? Like, he self-taught himself in the house and then started like going and talking to other people at studios, and then he became a business owner himself and started doing tattoos himself. Like, all of the art that I have on me, the majority is done by him. He is a person who cares about others and animals a lot. He was a vegan for 18 years before he was detained. All he had been doing for 18 years was straight vegan food, just because he wanted to make sure that even the animals didn't get hurt. And this is very important, right? My brother is not a violent person. He is not a vindictive person. I was told before to like not use the phrase that he will give you the shirt off his back because it's very cliche. And I was just like, well, ask him for the shirt. Like, ask him for the shoes, the pants, anything. He will give you the last bite in his plate. He doesn't care. So he's a very like selfless person. And he's been doing tattoos, I want to say, probably for the past 8 years. He's been selling his art for about 10 years or so. He did a bunch of signage for businesses in downtown Garland, which is our city where we pretty much have lived for the last 30 years or so. And so a lot of the places have art that he did for them. He volunteered at the North Texas Wildlife Center, taking care of baby raccoons, like rehabilitating them, feeding them, and then sending them back into the wild. He did fundraisers for them. He led a hip hop group in his elementary school when he was a teacher's aide. And it was like the first one that was available to all these kids, fourth graders, like literally beatboxing and hip hopping, like all over the place because, Mr. Sanchez did that for them. So he is an amazing person. And I'm not saying it as I'm his sister and I'm biased. Um, he literally is like an all around sweetheart, very caring, very loving. Seeing him on this situation is extremely hard, knowing that he's not the type of person that should be going through this at all,
Before
at
his
all.
arrest, AJ, what did his everyday life look like, and how often did you guys get to see each other?
So we saw each other at least a couple times a week. Since I own the bookstore, he does a lot of events with us. We call them Tales and Tats, and so we bring kind of like a book fair and tattoos together. And so we're always planning, like the next event that we could do. But he also is the main caregiver for my parents, right? Like their health is very poor. They're old, and he lived with them half of the time. Half of the time he lived in Fort Worth with his wife. Not only because he provided for my parents, but because his work is really close to my parents' house as well. But so basically, it will be in the morning, like he will have like breakfast with mom and dad, head out to work, do whatever he needed to do, however many appointments he had. He will include as much, like I said, like helping others as he could in between, you know. And then usually, whenever it was his time for his days off, he will go back to Fort Worth with his family, his wife and his stepdaughter over there. I call her stepdaughter, but it's like they've been there since she was like 3. So it's like his daughter,
Sure.
But yeah, like always, doing that stuff. But he spent a lot of time creating art, you know.
The reason I wanted to ask a little bit about him as a person and his everyday life is to remind people that, these are human beings that these things are happening to, and these are our neighbors and our community members. So when people are hearing his name in the news, what do you think they're missing?
Oh, the humanity part of it. Like they have been portrayed as terrorists, as criminals, as people who have conspired to create this attack. And my brother has been dragged into all of that, even though, like you mentioned before, he wasn't part of it. He was not at the protest, had no knowledge of the protest happening. Um, he was in his studio actually painting. And I know this because I was watching a live when he was painting on Instagram. Like we could see that. And so he was there while the protesters were having the noise demonstration, right? So people, whenever he was first arrested, I was actually in Mexico when I got the call. And I was sent a Facebook video that showed his arrest and how they were bringing these big guns and pointing it at him as if he was a criminal. But it was the comments that I saw in there it was very heart-wrenching. Like people who were calling him a terrorist, who were saying that he was a sleeping cell, who like they were like giving him all these different nationalities and like talking trash about him as if they knew who he was, but they have absolutely no idea. One of the things that is very heartbreaking is like my brother has always been a free spirit, right? And like he has his home in Fort Worth, had his home with my parents, own a motorcycle, and before he got married, he will just like leave for like a whole month, go up to the mountains and like be one with nature. We will only see one picture on Instagram once in a while of like whatever he was looking at on that moment, but we did not see him for like a month and a half, right? And all of a sudden, he is on these different cells that they have put him in, where he has very little access to sunlight, to the air, to any kind of weather. Like he will rather be outside in the snow and the ice than to be locked up.
Yeah.
And all of that is missed because they are treated as criminals from the time that they enter the system, despite of nothing having been proven yet. So it is really hard to read what they say about him.
I can imagine. And, when we're looking at what's been going on, right? with everything that you've seen, especially when we know that the January 6th rioters received a lot of support from Donald Trump, were you surprised at the level of sentencing that he received following that trial?
Yes and no. Like when I walk into the courthouse, I was hopeful
Hmm.
that his original recommendation for sentencing will be respected, which originally they had recommended 10 to 16 months, which I want to go on the record to say that no sentence will make us happy,
Right.
period, because he committed no crime. So there shouldn't be a reason why he should be behind bars, according to our constitutional right for the First Amendment and freedom of expression. He should not be behind bars. But the fact that the original recommendations was 10 to 16 months and the prosecution came back and decided that he should be sentenced the same way as everybody else, which is outrageous. I believe they were recommending 480 months. I'm like, for for what? So when they read the sentence and it was 30 years, it's still unbelievable. I don't think it has fully set in because by any sense of the word, it doesn't make sense.
When you heard that, were you in the courtroom when this happened, or where were you? And when you heard 30 years, and then when you heard what his wife was sentenced to, which I believe was 70,
70.
what was your initial reaction to that? Just those, I mean, those are huge sentences that,
Frustration,
yeah.
anger, and the sudden realization that we are going to spend the rest of our lives trying to get them out.
Wow. What concerned you the most, AJ, about how this case was prosecuted and the evidence, how they presented the evidence against him?
That, in particular, in my brother's case,
Hmm.
right? There was no evidence that pointed to a crime.
Hmm.
Yet, I had a conversation with a former prosecutor that it's not nothing to do with the case.
Uh-huh.
But I was talking to him about what's happening in this case, and he said something to me that kind of like stuck. And it is the fact that he said once they set their eyes on a guilty person, they're not going to let go.
Mm.
And I naively so, I wanted to believe that justice was going to happen and that my brother will be set free because there was no crime committed whatsoever.
Right.
And that's not the case. Um, so it is shocking that without proof, without you're not supposed to have any doubts when you go through something like this.
Yeah.
When the jury makes their verdict, they're supposed to be certain, right, that this is the right choice. When you look at the contents of the box, the zines, the poetry books, the stickers, the letters, the photographies, none of that is illegal to have.
Mhm.
These things are dated 2017, 2018, like prior to COVID. It's not even anything recent that has anything to do with, doesn't say the word Antifa, anything like that, right? So for me to be able to look at all those things that are inside of the box and listen to the prosecution said he's guilty
Mm.
because he has this box, it makes no sense at all.
Yeah, and it's very scary. I mean, you run a bookstore. I'm sure there are bookstores all over the country that contain anti-fascist material, right? Just because you carry books and some books have different messages. And so
Yeah.
when I think of the precedent that is being set right now with your brother being made as an example, it is very chilling to think of where this leads us as a nation. How are your parents handling this? Because you said that he was a caregiver, a primary caregiver. How are they doing?
It's not it's not a good situation right now. Their emotional load that they're dealing with right now. If you had seen them a year ago,
Yeah.
right, before any of this happened, before their house was raided, before my brother was arrested, before anything of this, they're two completely different people than they are right now. Their health has decayed. We are dealing with the fact that now we're gonna have to sell their house. And they're gonna be moving with me, but it's so unfortunate that they're basically losing everything that they had, and they still don't have my brother. So it's not even like they have any comfort that he will be here in the next few months or anything like that, you know. So the worry is always there. Tension is always present. It's very unfortunate. It's very sad. Um, they they find a little bit of comfort on a little dog that they have. And if you do any kind of research on my brother and you look at the pictures that I was telling you from when he was making that painting on July 4th last year, there's a tiny little puppy. It's probably like this big, a puppy by his foot that he had just like literally chosen, and she was going to be his. And so after he was detained, the people who had the dogs, they were like, well, this is his dog. Like, do you guys want it or like what? And so like we took it home, and my parents have been taking care of her. And they tell my brother every time they talk with him, you know, they talk about Cafecita and how she's doing. And, you know, she's like their baby right now. It's like the only thing that they are concerned about all the time. Has she eaten? Does she go to the bathroom? Like, oh my gosh, it's incredible. But it's the one thing that I feel brings them joy throughout the day whenever they just like start thinking again, you know, about my brother. And
When I'm thinking about your whole family, I mean, there's so many dynamics here. I mean, your niece has basically lost both of her parents overnight.
yeah,
How has this been for you, having to witness all of this? And now I can tell you're taking on more caretaking role. How is this changing your life and the people around you?
I think I need professional help like at this point. Um, it sounds funny to say like that, but I'm like, I don't think I could make it without the support of my kids, to be honest. Jacob, Maya, and Caleb, they are such a strong foundation for me, because at any given moment, you know, like when I have to go to the court, and we were there for 3 weeks, it was just like, okay, you're running the store, you're taking care of the house, you're going to school on your own. It's like we just have to like make it work, right? And it is it has been stressful. But I think the worst part, Natalie, if I can say this, is I don't want to call it survivor's guilt, because this was not a catastrophe, right? But there's nothing that I do where I don't feel like I can't take anything for granted anymore, because it could be gone at any minute. My brother was accidentally released in November of last year.
Okay.
And so he was home with us for almost 9 days before we had to turn it back in.
What do you mean he was accidentally released?
So originally he was going to be tried by himself.
Okay.
And then the prosecution decided to like do a superseding inside. What is it? Superseding. Oh, I can't remember the word. Where they like joined him with the other defendants, right?
Okay.
That were going to be tried by themselves, because he wasn't there.
Right.
So nothing that he had kind of affected the outcome of anybody else, because nothing of the box belonged to anybody else. It didn't point it at anything. And so he was going to be tried by himself. And when they did that, when they moved him from that indictment to the next one with everybody else, they closed the charges that they had given him originally.
Mm.
And so the jail called us and he's like, hey, he's being released. And we're like, what? That was November 25th. And so they're like, you need to come and get him. And so we're like, this is so weird. So we called the attorney, and the attorney is like, no, I'm looking online, like there's still charges for him. And I said, well, they're telling me I need to come and get him. And so I went and picked him up, brought him home, and his attorney said, we're gonna sort everything out. Just give him all the love that you can give him right now, and then we'll figure it out. And so we did that. We took him to the North Texas Wildlife Center to pet some raccoons and possums and give them some love. He went to visit all his buddies from tattoo shops that he worked with. I took him to eat all the vegan food that he wanted. And every time that he entered the room, the restaurant, the place, it was just tears. And it was the same thing coming out of his mouth. I never thought I would get to do this again. And seeing him just like grab like the little baby raccoon and just like be crying, it was like, I never thought I would fool one again. Like I never thought I would wear this clothes again. It's just like things like brushing his teeth with the actual toothpaste that he likes. It's just like, all these things that we get to do. He doesn't get to do them anymore, and for nothing, because he did nothing wrong.
When you're thinking of these times again, have you been able to speak to him since the sentencing? And if there's anything that you're allowed to share with us, is there anything that he said that stuck out to you?
So he's very shocked. He shares the sentiment, right? Like there's no sentence that will make you happy, but 30 years, it's really excessive. We looked comparisons wise, like crimes. What could you have done in order for you to spend this much time in jail, right? And carrying a box of magazines is nothing that you would ever be tried, at least to say, even be convicted of. He will have to be a very violent person in order for him to spend 30 years in prison, like a very bad person. And it just doesn't fit. And so he says that he's in shock, and he still hasn't completely settled in. Right now, our biggest worry is the fact that, he's going to end up being moved from where he's at right now, and then go through the distribution process of sending him to another jail, and we don't know where he's going to be sent. If he's going to be within driving distance or anything,
Your niece, how is she? Is she staying with you now as well?
She she is staying with her biological dad. She lives with them, and then she comes and visits like the grandparents and uncles, and spends time with them. But she is about, I want to say, an hour and a half to 2 hours away from here right now. While my brother was at FMC Fort Worth while waiting for the trial, she actually got to go visit him in there a couple times. When he was, again, accidentally released, we took her for ice cream. They went and have some ice cream and hang out. And so that was really good for them to do.
Are you going to appeal? What's the next step in this process?
Yeah, I think everyone is working on finding a way to appeal the case, because I don't care if it takes me the rest of my life to do this. He should not be behind bars. And the loneliness that comes with them being secluded, right? Like I tell him all the time when I talk to him on the phone, I know it's easy for me to say, stay strong and we love you, and we're doing everything that we can, It's so much easier for me to say it than for him to live it, because he's the one in that place without family, where like you have no privacy, you have no compassion, you know. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to
Have
think of what
have
he
you
goes
been
through.
have you been able to receive support outside of the family, like online in different groups? What has the public sentiment that you've experienced been like?
So, my brother, thankfully, he, I guess it's called karma, right? Like he was a good person to everybody, and so everybody started pouring love to us as soon as everything happened. You know, as a matter of fact, it was his friends who like got a hold of me and were the ones who told me what had happened, and that's how I like figured out. They sent me the Facebook video and did all the things, and so his friends have been a great support for us. And if I need anything, I'll just reach out to them. It's like, do you know anybody who can fix this for my parents' house? And, you know, they'll like figure it out and help us. There is a DFW committee that it's very involved in this. It actually was created, I believe, as a result of the Prairieland defendants cases, and they have been doing like while we were going through court, they were holding breakfast and lunch outside for us so that we didn't have to go to a restaurant and like wait for us to be served, and so that we could be back into the courthouse like right on time. They have done like fundraisers to like help with like lawyer money and you know, that kind of thing. I think for us, what is really important is to get the word out, mostly because I don't think that it's getting the attention that it needs to get when it is such a specific issue when it comes to constitutional rights that are not being kept.
And I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, if you could be speaking right now to directly to our members of our Congress or to the Justice Department, what would you say to them?
This is a violation of his First Amendment rights. There were no crimes committed in here. An ideology does not equal crime, does not equal a guilty sentence. We should be allowed to think how we think and feel how we feel without the fear of being punished for our thoughts. Our founding fathers believe on this. They believed that we should be able to have freedom of speech. It should not change now.
And do you think, as you're looking forward, what message is this sending to people who are attending protests, or how people are going to exercise their First Amendment right? Like you said, to free speech and the right to assemble.
So, being in the courtroom and hearing from the judge that they were trying to make an example so that no others will follow their footsteps, not quoting the exact words, but paraphrasing what he said, was very eye-opening because this is this case, not just my brothers, but like everybody on the Prairieland defendants, is setting a precedent for prosecution on dissent. It's basically sending a message out that if you don't agree with the government, then you should just be quiet.
As we're looking forward, AJ, and we're seeing, we're about to hit the 250th anniversary of the founding of this nation, to your point, with the founding fathers. What do you want your fellow Americans to understand about what this means as a nation?
I'm trying not to be sarcastic here, but if we allow this to continue, then America only lasted 250 years because it will not longer be the same nation that was created 250 years ago. It will be a complete different thing.
Any other thoughts or things that you'd like to share?
Continue speaking out, continue talking about the Prairieland defendants, let everybody know these people are innocent. They need to come home to their families need them. One of the things that I would like to bring up that is not 100% related to my brother, these people are missing not only birthdays, they're not missing only like holidays. Maricela, my sister-in-law, lost her father while she was being detained. And she could not attend the funeral of her own dad when she committed no crimes. Like you mentioned earlier, explosives being fireworks. Like none of this makes sense. The stretch of every word, the narrative that is being portrayed, it's very sensationalist. Like they're trying to create headlines rather than to actually present the facts. And I know some of this might come back later for me because I'm speaking of, but I'm tired of this. I am tired of the fact that we were trying to be respectful of the law. We are good citizens. My brother said it on his statement that he did at court. I am a father. I am a teacher. I am a husband. What I am not is a terrorist. And those simple words that he said right there, it's like, this is not how he's being treated. And this shouldn't happen. So keep spreading the word, keep telling everyone, and let's bring them home. Let's get them home.
AJ, thank you so much for being in conversation with me today. I know this is a very difficult time, but I appreciate your candor and your honesty. And I couldn't agree more. I think we need to amplify these stories so that we understand as a nation what is really at stake if we want to have a country, like you said, moving forward in the spirit of democracy. And until next time, everyone, please take care of yourselves and each other.